Okay, let's click OK now. And notice this is going to be called total sum F for the function, sum function. And we'll go to our data. And notice here's our total with the sum function. Notice that all the totals agree until we get to observation number 9. Now here for observation number 9, notice the difference. When the manual add sum function, or sum we used, Q1 plus Q2 all the way through Q5, when we did that manually without using a function, it returns just a missing value. But when you use the sum function, it actually adds the values that are valid. Notice here we have 13, 20, 27. So that's the total that was returned using the sum function. Now, which one of these you want to use in the presence of a missing value depends on what your objectives are. If we don't know why the person did not complete this question, then having this total here that we obtained via the sum function could be misleading, because it could look like their total satisfaction on the 5 questions was actually lower than it was, because if you look here, they responded with 7s on 3 of the 4 questions, yet their total was lower because this was ignored. So in other words, only 4 questions were added together. Okay, that's important to recognize with the sum function. Now that may be okay depending on what you're doing. If you have a multiple choice test and someone does not complete a question, well then they don't get a point for that. And that would make sense to use the sum function to add up the total. But if you're trying to assess something like satisfaction, that's another question, and simply giving a total that ignores missing values could be problematic. There are ways to replace missing values and so forth, but that's far beyond the scope of this tutorial. Okay, so using these 2 functions in summary, we obtain the same values across the board with the exception of when a missing value is present. So as long as there's no missing values in your entire data set, either function will return you the same answer. If there is one or more missing values, then the functions will differ. So this concludes the tutorial on examining the sum function and manual adding of items in SPSS.